Growing up, I was always good at everything that I cared about. I beat all my friends at Smash Bros, I did enough to study to get decent grades, and I was physically strong in the gym. This is what I'd call talent. Talent is the affinity a person has towards certain things without having to actively try. Despite being talented in these things though, I was never the best. That's because the title of the best always belonged to the freaks. The freaks were the special guys, the guys who nobody could ever touch. The ones who everyone knew were just special. Teachers loved the freaks, coaches praised them as stars, parents secretly looked at them with envy, and we just regarded them as different than us. These guys just had something that we didn't, that we probably never would. But the thing is, that just isn't true. What they have isn't actually anything special, and it's not anything new. As I get older and experience more life, I realize that nobody is special and nobody is a freak, and nobody at the top is inherently different. Being exceptional is easy. Actually. Now I know that this is kind of an inflammatory statement to make, especially coming from some nobody like me. What does this guy know? He's obviously not special. What would he know? That's probably what you're thinking. And if you are, I don't blame you. Honestly, if I were you, I'd probably think the same thing. But if you just hear me out, I'll show you why exceptional people aren't special and how you can become exceptional too. And trust me, it's not anything impossible or magical or anything that you haven't heard before. All right, still here? Glad you decided to stick around. I'm Moj, and in this video, I'm going to show you why being exceptional doesn't require you to be special, and how you can be exceptional too. Merriam-Webster defines exceptional as better than average, superior. This is the definition that we all know. Merriam-Webster also defines exceptional as deviating from the norm. This includes some of the things that we don't normally associate being exceptional with, such as being below average, or being remarkably unremarkable. See, being exceptional by definition means to not be like everybody else. But this is all semantics, and we both know why you clicked on this video, so we'll focus on the first interpretation. Being exceptional can manifest itself in an infinite number of ways, some of which may be important to some people and not so important to the others. I think that's why the feeling of wanting to be exceptional is so universal, because everyone cares about something, and if enough people do this thing, then there's naturally will be exceptions. Think LeBron James, Steve Jobs, Kanye West, Albert Einstein, and I'm sure you can think of a million more. These guys all stem from different disciplines and are examples of people's ability to be exceptional at anything. In fact, let me scratch my earlier point of there being enough people doing something to find exceptions, because even if there aren't many people doing something, by its nature, the people who are doing it become the exception by default. Still though, this is probably not a satisfactory answer to how to become exceptional. Let's go deeper. If we care less about being exceptional at just anything, what is a more satisfactory answer? I'd argue the question that we're probably looking for is, how can exceptional come from anywhere? This question about exceptionality is more interesting, I think, because it is relatable to everyone, and it applies to whatever you care about. How can I become exceptional in my job, in my school, in my sport, in whatever I care about? This is the question that everyone who cares about what they're doing asks themselves. Wait, that doesn't feel right. I bet you're probably thinking that too. People who care about being the exception rarely become exceptional. Or more specifically, people who only care about being the exception don't become exceptional. It's often the person who's detached from the outcomes that is exceptional. I think that is the thing that most people identify as the thing that's different when they see the freaks. It's this detachment from outcome, the lack of trying, the nonchalance. When I was still competitively swimming, I frequently raced and was beaten by the top-ranked swimmers in my province. I remember asking him a few times how he did it. What was the secret? His answer was always something along the lines of, there isn't a secret, which just left a younger, more naive me thinking that he was just gatekeeping his success. In university, I joined the Smash Bros Club to see how I matched up against people outside my friend group, and I was humbled. The advice I heard? Practice matchups. Again, I was left feeling like these guys didn't want me knowing the real steps to success. In high school, I was introduced to weight training by my coaches as a supplement to my swimming training. After high school and going to university, I quit competitive swimming but kept with weight training. It's been about 8 years since then. I never really thought about how to become the best or strongest or stand out. I was just simply carrying on what my coaches had instilled in me, plus some bodybuilding, because having big arms is something I care about. Sometime along the way, I stumbled across the sport of powerlifting and my entire perspective around lifting changed. I became fascinated with the idea of becoming as strong as possible for your weight, so I adopted a powerlifting training style and continued that way for years. Before I continue, I'd like to emphasize that during this time, I never competed in powerlifting. I only took up the training style because I found it interesting to train with an emphasis on strength. What happened after a few years of doing this is that I'm no longer only exceptional in strength among my friends and peers, but I am also at levels now of strength that would be competitive in actual competition. I have reached what my younger self would have called a freak, or freak status. I use the example of powerlifting here because it is one of the only things in my life that I've stuck with long enough to really see this effect. But this effect is observable with any discipline, given enough time and focus. But that's not very specific, is it? Just like it and do it is easier said than done. So let's break down its components. Component number 1 is just do the thing. Do the thing as often as you can. Do it when tired. Do it when sad. Do it to do it. Everyone you've ever met that is good at something was once worse at it than they are now. That means that wherever they are now, they built their way there. How? By doing repetitions, making the process second nature. Component number 2 is doing the thing with intention. My swim coach used to tell the team whenever we're doing laps, count something, anything, because something tracked is something improved. Whenever you do the thing, it doesn't have to be a session where you get better at everything. I think that is what keeps people from getting stuff done most of the time. At least it was for me. I used to have such a perfectionist mindset to the point that I didn't even want to try if I ran the risk of not doing something well. But the act of doing the thing with intention is what gets you closer to improvement, not doing it perfect. Component number 3 is time. This one's kind of obvious. You must do the thing with intention for enough time for the intention and repetition to become the habits that make you better. When I was 20 years old, I began investing my money into the stock market. With investing, there's a concept called DCA, which stands for dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging is the practice of investing as much as you can, as often as you can, into a holding for as long as you can. The objective of this is to average out any instability or volatility that may occur in the market. By adding, say, $50 every day to the market, any spikes get flattened long term because the amount invested was spread out over a long time. This, in combination with the historical trend that the market goes up over long periods of time, produces what many would agree to be the most guaranteed way to successful investing. The 3 steps I just described are essentially just dollar cost averaging, but into things outside of the stock market. Here, time is your money. If I go to the gym every day over 5 years, how much impact does one bad training day have on my overall progression? What about 1 week? What about 1 month? Or even a year? DCAing isn't the only concept we can adopt from investing. The second and more powerful is compound interest. Now, I'm sure you've probably heard about compound interest a million times, and I know you probably understand what it is, but I'm going to talk about it anyways because it really is that important. Compound interest is a mathematical concept that recurring periods of interest gain interest recursively and exponentially. Yeah, that explanation kind of sucks. I don't know how to say it in a way that doesn't sound super technical, so I'm going to use an analogy. Imagine you're at the beach and you find a magic bucket. The magic bucket has a spell cast on it that dictates that every 10 minutes, for every 3 pounds of sand in the bucket, an additional pound of sand will magically be added to the bucket. Now, you can just add a little bit of sand and let that grow over time, or you could implement DCA on this bucket and add as much sand as you can afford, as often as you can afford, and eventually you'll be drowning in sand. That is, provided the bucket is big enough. The best part about compound interest, though, is that in real life, your investment accounts and your room for improvement don't have a size limit. Now, I think I've been talking for a while, so I'll just leave you with this one last concept. This concept is a saying that goes, pay yourself first. You may have heard it before as treat savings like a bill, or in a more abstract sense, and my favorite way to say it, eat the frog first. The first 2 sayings are pretty obviously about money. The concept's objective is to create a framework where whenever you're paid, you set aside some savings and live with the rest. Essentially, by doing this over a long period of time, you'll have a large sum of money that you didn't have to exert additional effort to obtain. So what does the third saying have to do with money? I heard, and I forget where, a story about a man who was cursed to eat a frog every day. It was a slimy, smelly, gross frog that tasted awful. He dreaded it and would do anything and everything to avoid eating it for as long as he could every day. But that is no way to live, living in dread about the thing you must do. So one day, he ate the frog first. What he found from doing this was that the rest of the day could only be better. Once you do the hard thing, then everything else is free. I think at this point that it's pretty clear how this can be applied to investing. But what about skills? Well, it's the same thing. Create a routine where you don't have to think about doing it or exert any willpower in order to get it done. For me, this meant once I was done work, no matter how much I ate or how much I slept or how I felt, I would walk the 2 minutes across the street and into the gym. No room to think, just do. In the book Atomic Habits, James Clear gives this practice the name habit stacking. He describes it as using the behavior or habit that you do anyways as the signal to do the habit that you're trying to build. So for example, I get paid today, I automatically invest a bit. And over a long period of time, my investment account is not only large, but it is growing exponentially, and I haven't exerted any strenuous effort to get there. Now I know you may be thinking something like, yeah, practice makes perfect. This is obvious. And to that I'd like to reiterate component number 2. Do the thing with intention. It's not enough to just show up to practice. You must show up to practice and intentionally practice in order to improve. It's not practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. Oh Moj, but everyone already knows all this. So how can I be exceptional if everyone is doing it already? So I'll ask you this. Are they? Is everyone really doing all of these things? Think of any discipline and honestly ask, is everyone doing as much as they can as often as they can? Is everyone acting intentionally? Is everyone optimizing to make their improvement automatic? I doubt it. But hopefully you can see, as I've outlined here, this stuff is insanely simple. Improvement for you could be as simple as going to bed on time. It could be reading something relevant to your discipline for 15 minutes a day. It could be leaving your computer open on Google Docs when you leave for work so that when you get home, there's no resistance for you to continue writing your script for your YouTube video. These are all little things that can be implemented with just a little bit of intention. Being exceptional may take time, but if you do a little bit every day for a long enough time, you'll come to find that being exceptional is maybe not easy, but simple, actually.